Sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. I am Sean O'Leary, and this is my story. Life growing up for me was, I would say, pretty normal, as you would think. My dad went to work, and my mom stayed home with us kids, and I would say it's a pretty average childhood. We did a lot of fun stuff and went on vacations. But I did grow up going to church, and we went to church every Sunday. My mom would go on Wednesdays and Sunday nights, and some or all of us kids would go. And I knew about the Lord, but I think I just never had, or even really knew, that you could have a relationship with Jesus. It kind of felt like something you did, almost like belonging to an organization, but I didn't realize you could actually know God intimately. And I was actually in the juvenile hall, and I was sitting in class, and someone told me, they said, hey, there's a priest here to see you. Because growing up, I grew up Catholic, so you think priest and nuns, and I see Dave Bill coming down the hallway in plain clothes, and I'm like, this guy's not a priest, But I was glad to talk to him because I was getting out of the routine of what I had been doing that day. So I talked to him, and he was sharing with me about Teen Challenge, and I remember thinking, I don't want nothing to do with that, So I told him I wasn't interested, but I thanked him for his time, and it was funny because I remember my mother telling me when I came out of the juvenile hall that she said, Sean, I prayed and I gave you to the Lord, and I'm not going to worry about you anymore. And within 3 months, I was in Teen Challenge, and I was court ordered to be there, and it was just God's way of moving on my life when I didn't even know He was moving. And I was in the program there, and I was very bitter to be there because I didn't want to change. And really, I hate to say this, but I went there court ordered, like I said, and if I would have been facing less time, I would have went to jail, which would have been an awful mistake, because God used the ministry of Teen Challenge to change my life. And I remember the night that I gave my life to the Lord, I was at Ashtabula Assembly of God, I believe it's called Gateway now, and there was a pastor there, his name was Pastor Dwayne Ball, and I'll never forget, he was preaching about the land of not enough, the land of just enough, and the land of more than enough. He was preaching about how God will take you from the land of not enough, in the land of just enough, in the land of more than enough. And to me, I'd been in that Teen Challenge in the program for a few weeks, had not given my life to the Lord, was wondering what was going on. Everybody was singing and dancing and getting loud, and I'm like, what is going on here, And I'll tell you what, by the end of the service, I was going up there at the altar call when they got to the land of more than enough. I remember I was sitting at the table, and I was just sitting there, and I'm like, man, why have I waited so long to do this, And I remember different people from their church who I'd never met, they came up to me, and they started hugging me. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if these people knew where I've been and what I've been doing, I'm like, they wouldn't be hugging me. But I realize now that I've been a Christian for a while, that a lot of them probably been through the same thing. God gave me a new feeling, and a new joy, and a new hope, where I can be joyful about things, and I know that I don't have to live a wrong lifestyle, and I just feel blessed, and I know that I am blessed. I look at my own life where, things not only felt hopeless, but they were hopeless, I remember coming home at 17 years old, and I'd been so terrible, my own mother said, you can't live here anymore. I thought it was strange coming home in the middle of the day and the house was all locked up, And I was telling a guy recently, I'm like, I ended up having to stay at different people's houses, and it was the weirdest feeling when you understand and you know that nobody's looking for you, nobody's wondering where you're at, and nobody's caring at that time. And I think people obviously cared for me, but I just knew that it was kind of like people would just say, hey, you know what, if this is what you want to do, see you later. And all the times that I had been rebellious and bucked against things, it's like people stopped holding me back. They said, hey, go ahead, man. And that's an awful feeling. And I thank God they don't have to feel like that. One of the first verses that I learned when I became a Christian is 2 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." And I feel like if I had a verse for my life, that simple verse that is so profound and deep,